As we prepare to travel farther into deep space, it's vital that crews can grow their own food and vegetation, much like depicted in the movie The Martian. Lori Meggs at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center had spoke with some investigators who have learned a great deal about that with the space station's advanced plant experiment, which could help us on that journey to Mars.
Fundamentally, we're really interested in what are the adaptive processes when we take you or a plant or an animal off from the surface of the Earth and put it in a place where no terrestrial organism has ever been before. The APEX series of experiments actually started out in one facility called the Advanced Biological Research System. Currently, APEX is running in something called the VPS, the Vegetable Production System, also called VEGgie, on orbit. So it is not a series of experiments, nor has ours been a dedicated facility experiment. Rather, it's a concept. And on the International Space Station, in addition to using sort of the growth facility, we also use other facilities such as the light microscopy module to look at our biology, to look at our plants as they are living and adapting to and customizing to living in space.
So we send seedlings?
Yeah, we've done it a couple of ways, but the easiest way, the most effective way to do plant growth on the International Space Station is quite naturally to send seeds. Seeds are the dormant life storage form of plants. Seeds are remarkable. You can freeze them, you can put them in the dark, you can put them away in a refrigerator for a while, and when you need them to start growing, you bring them out, you warm them up, you turn on the lights, and plants will start growing.
So we talked about why we send seeds to space and why we study plant growth, but what have we learned?
Well, we learned a lot of things. One of the things that we found that is when we use these dormant plants, the seeds, and we send them to the space station, they have not yet had any influence in how they grow and how they respond to their environment until they get germinated on the space station. And so what we found is that they respond in ways that are totally unexpected from what we anticipated from on Earth. We think about, for instance, one of the first things we thought that when you don't have any gravity, the roots are going to grow in all sorts of different directions, but in fact that they don't. And so one of the things that we found is that on the space station, when you don't have any gravity to act as your primary cue for which way you grow as a root, you use light as an alternative. But how you use light is very important. We find that if you have this nice gradient of light where the plant can use this as it's higher here, it's lower here, they know to grow in this direction, that works. But if you put plants in a situation where the light is diffuse and coming from all directions, which was one of the follow-on experiments we did for our first APEX experiment, we found that, now they don't grow in that same direction anymore. But what we did find is that there's still an inherent capability of how roots will grow away from where they germinate to maximize, the nutrients and things that they derive from the patterns that they grow, and that's specific and inherent to different genotypes, different genetic backgrounds of your parent, of your seeds. And this has been really key into some of the transcriptome and the genetic analyses that then have followed on from these macro sort of observations.
When you see that it's not really affecting, or it grows kind of in a different way, the things that are unexpected, how does that help us here?
It helps us here in sort of understanding sort of the fundamental nature of how plants process signals, for instance. And so a lot of the perceptions that we have for how plants use gravity and how plants use the various kinds of signaling molecules and hormones that they normally grow, all those assumptions are made by what we've learned in a gravity environment. When you take that out of the equation, now all of a sudden we're able to learn some more of the fundamentals. And in fact, some of the things that we have seen are counter to what theories have been made, over the last 100 years. And so that informs not only us for how to grow plants better on space, for the future of agriculture in orbiting environments and things, but also informs us on how we can better understand how plants use signals here on Earth, especially in adverse environments or environments where we have marginal growing conditions or anything along those lines.